Before your hand touches the door handle, your dog has already finished its first assessment of you, not your expression, not your posture, not the words you'll say. It has read your cortisol concentration, a stress compound your body has been releasing into your sweat, your breath, and the microscopic particles trailing behind you since the moment your day started going sideways. Most owners believe they leave work at the door. They think the commute creates a clean psychological break. They walk in, the dog runs over, tail moving, and everything seems fine, normal, comforting even. Here's what's actually happening. Your dog isn't reacting to your return, it's diagnosing you. And the diagnosis was already complete before you said a word. So what precisely does it detect? And what does that trigger inside the animal living in your home? The dominant belief is this: dogs respond to actions. The leash comes out, the dog gets excited. The bowl moves, the dog follows. You raise your voice, the dog reacts. From that framework, a tired homecoming seems neutral. You sit down quietly, you don't demand anything, the dog settles beside you. Owners interpret this as harmony, a calm dog, a good evening. That interpretation is measurably incomplete. And the gap between what owners believe and what's actually happening inside that dog is where the real story begins. Dogs are not reading your behavior, they are processing a biochemical broadcast. Research from the University of Naples confirmed that dogs can detect changes in human cortisol through olfactory processing alone before any behavioral cues are present. The detection threshold operates at concentrations measured in parts per trillion. When you arrive emotionally depleted, your body emits a chemically distinct signature. Your dog's olfactory system, containing roughly 300 million scent receptors versus a human's 6 million, processes that compound in under 4 seconds. This is not empathy, this is not intuition. This is neurological precision being applied to threat assessment. That distinction changes everything about what your dog does next. The documented sequence begins before you cross the threshold and unfolds in seconds. At T+0, the scent read is complete and the cortisol compound is identified. By T+3 seconds, the dog's autonomic nervous system activates, heart rate elevates, pupils dilate. By T+7 seconds, ears reposition, tail suppression begins, and body posture starts to recalibrate. By T+10 seconds, the dog has shifted its full behavioral state around the detected threat data. Alexander Horowitz's Canine Cognition Lab at Barnard College has documented olfactory-triggered stress mirroring in dogs. Autonomic shifts driven not by owner behavior, but by chemical cues processed before any social interaction begins. The dog is not feeling your energy in any spiritual sense. It is processing a data set and restructuring its behavioral state around that data. Here is the first counterintuitive finding, and it matters. When you arrive emotionally drained, you are often met with a quieter dog. A dog that doesn't jump, doesn't bark, comes over slowly, settles down near you. Owners read this as the dog being relaxed, well-behaved, picking up on the vibe. What is actually happening is suppression. The dog has dampened its own arousal response to align with the detected state of the person it depends on for safety. This is not calm behavior. It is vigilance behavior with the volume turned down. Dogs in homes with chronically depleted owners show measurably lower greeting intensity over time. The dog is not becoming more relaxed. It is adapting, and that adaptation carries a neurological cost. The behavior markers are precise and observable. When a dog greets an emotionally neutral owner, you see high vocalization, full body engagement, rapid proximity seeking, and play solicitation within 30 seconds. When a dog greets a depleted owner whose stress state has already been detected, you see something entirely different: muted or absent vocalization, a tentative approach with the body held lower, slow proximity seeking, with frequent pausing, and no play solicitation at all. Instead, sustained scanning. The second pattern is not a dog at ease. It is a dog conducting continuous environmental threat monitoring while suppressing its baseline social drive. Most owners have never seen it for what it is. This behavior is not instinct. It is learned, and the mechanism is classical conditioning applied to olfactory cues. Repeated exposure creates the association. The scent of exhaustion predicts specific outcomes: reduced movement, flat vocal tone, minimal interaction. Over time, that scent alone becomes the conditioned stimulus. The dog's suppression response is triggered before any owner behavior occurs. This is Pavlovian second-order conditioning, operating through smell rather than sound. The dog has built a predictive behavioral model from biochemical pattern data. Learned responses compound, which means that every depleted homecoming is a repetition trial. quietly reinforcing a behavioral template that is now running automatically. The common belief is that a quiet, non-demanding dog after a hard day is a gift, that the dog is giving you space, that it knows you need rest. Behavioral science offers a different interpretation. The dog is not giving you space. It is in a low arousal, high vigilance state driven by threat signal detection. The stillness you are reading as contentment is a suppression response. The University of Vienna's Clever Dog Lab found that dogs in chronic low-stimulation, high-stress home environments carry elevated baseline cortisol levels, even when the household appears, by all visible indicators, to be calm and peaceful. The atmosphere is not peaceful for the dog. It is managed. The loop is bidirectional and self-reinforcing. The owner arrives depleted. The dog detects cortisol elevation. The dog suppresses its greeting response. The owner receives low stimulation and experiences relief, interprets the dog's quietness as calm. The owner begins to associate coming home depleted with a peaceful dog. The suppression is now being positively reinforced without the owner realizing it. Months of this produce a dog that has learned emotional flatness as a strategy within the relationship. The dog is not content. It is regulated down to a survivable minimum. This is where owners become implicated, not through cruelty, but through a feedback loop they were never aware existed. The standard advice is to ignore your dog when you come home, to avoid encouraging overly excited behavior. That advice addresses arousal and does not address stress detection. These are different states requiring different responses. When a dog is in a stress detection episode, already vigilant, already scanning, being ignored does not reduce its cortisol load. It removes the one variable that could actually resolve the assessment, social confirmation, from the attachment figure. An ignored dog in a vigilant state does not decompress. It holds the alert. The advice optimizes for human comfort while leaving the dog's nervous system entirely unresolved. Dogs in long-term relationships do not only react to current emotional states, they anticipate them through repeated pattern exposure, time of day, environmental cues, scent memory. Dogs in households with consistently depleted evening owners begin showing pre-arrival stress behaviors before the owner returns. Elevated cortisol, pacing, reduced play. This is anticipatory stress, and it is documented in separation anxiety research. Your dog is not anxious about your absence. It is anxious about what your return will feel like before you arrive. The dog has built a predictive model of your internal state, derived from hundreds of repetitions of the same scent-to-behavior pairing. Go beneath the behavior. What chronic stress mirroring does to the dog's body is measurable and serious. Sustained activation of the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system responsible for cortisol release, produces downstream consequences: suppressed immune function, disrupted sleep architecture, reduced dopamine-seeking behavior. These are the same biological pathways implicated in chronic anxiety disorders in humans. Veterinary endocrinology research confirms measurably elevated cortisol levels in dogs living with high-stress owners over extended periods, independent of exercise levels, diet, or breed. This stops being a behavioral observation at that point. The dog is not just emotionally affected, it is physiologically altered by the emotional climate of the household. The goal here is not to perform happiness for your dog. It is to give your dog's nervous system a resolution signal, something that closes the threat loop it opened the moment it first detected you. The framework has 3 phases, grounded in co-regulation research from attachment theory. Phase 1 is the pre-entry reset. 90 seconds before you enter, you take controlled, deliberate breaths. This is not a mindfulness exercise. It is a direct intervention on exhaled cortisol concentration. The biochemical broadcast your body emits changes measurably with your respiratory state. Phase 2 is the threshold ritual. A brief, consistent, low arousal greeting at the door. Not enthusiastic, not cold. Consistent. The dog needs a predictable social confirmation signal, something that closes the assessment loop rather than prolonging the uncertainty. Phase 3 is the transition window. 10 to 15 minutes of quiet co-presence. Not isolation in another room, which sustains the vigilant state. Not high stimulation, which destabilizes a dog already in a suppressed regulatory mode. Proximity without demand. This gives the autonomic nervous system the time and the signal it needs to return to baseline. Here's the perspective shift that reorients everything that came before it. Your dog is not your emotional support animal by default. It is your biological mirror by design. And that design did not evolve to help you feel understood. It evolved to assess pack safety. When you walk through that door depleted, your dog does not see someone who needs comfort. It sees a pack member whose internal state signals potential threat. Everything it does from that point forward, every suppressed greeting, every vigilant stillness, every quiet evening, is threat management, not affection. That reframe is not a criticism, it is a structural fact. And once you see it, you cannot read your dog's behavior the same way again tonight. When you walk through that door, don't watch what your dog does, watch what it doesn't do. The greeting it holds back, the pause before it approaches, the scan before the settle. Drop your observation in the comments. Next, your dog is also reading your sleep. Another biological feedback loop most owners never notice, and it runs every night.